Alright guys, welcome back to Pokemon TCG HQ. So now we're going to go into top 4 of the Burning Shadows League Cup that took place at Chase Games in Cannock. So in top 4 we have Tamao Cameron, who we've seen before, playing Gardevoir, and Connor Bird playing Decidueye Ninetales. So we're in for a great match, so we'll go straight into it. Thank you. So Tamao Cameron is on our left playing Gardevoir, and Connor Bird is on our right playing Decidueye Ninetales. Just a quick couple of thoughts going into the match. We've seen Tamao's deck really start to set up quite early with Bridget, really start to get a lot of energy on the board, and really start trying to swing for big one-hit KOs, particularly as Decidueye and Ninetales tend to have 2 or 3 energies on them. So they tend to require a total of around 7 energy to knock out the Ninetales, 8 energy in total with a choice band, for example, to knock out the Decidueye. What Connor's going to try and do is probably spread a lot of damage across the Gardevoirs, either using Tapu Koko or Decidueye's Feather ability, because he does play the tech Espeon EX, which allows him to use Miraculous Shine and devolve to Mao's side of the bench. So with Tamao, if he decides to go the rare candy route, the route has 60 HP, so Connor only needs to get 60 damage onto these Gardevoirs. If Tamao does evolve into the Curliers, it's got a total of 80 HP, so he does need an extra Feather Arrow onto those Pokemon to be able to then devolve and take the KOs. Taking only 1 prize, of course, because it devolves the GXs into basic, well, not basic Pokemon, but into non-GX, non-EX Pokemon. But that surely will be Connor's sort of target for victory here. So we're just waiting for the guys to set up and begin. So we'll just wait a little bit longer. I believe they're about to start. I believe Connor is actually going first. Probably one of the reasons why he hasn't necessarily benched that Rowlet that we see him shuffling in his hand. There we go, we start off. And yes, Connor does start. He does have an opening Alolan Vulpix, which is probably his ideal starter, which allows him to beacon. Well, unfortunately not on turn 1, but in subsequent turns to start setting up. So hopefully he'll look to try and get the Decidueye's Ninetales, and maybe I guess if he does play a Koko as well, ready to evolve and actually start spreading damage. So he does bench 3 Rowlet from a Sycamore. Ideal, considering he didn't actually get the Bridget in play. So Tamao goes for the Guzma onto the Rowlet, knowing that Connor would have to waste an energy or Floatstone or Guzma himself to try and get himself back into that beacon position. Attach his DC and have Remoraid. He's got a double route start as well, so he'd be quite happy with his start. It looks like Connor may have top decked the Tapu Lele. So he's doing his usual thing, checking his prizes. He's checking that Espeon EX is not prized. Does start shuffling his deck. A couple of riffles. Does take the Sycamore from the Tapu Lele. As you can see, he's also evolved 1 Rowlet into a Dartrix and 1 of the Vulpix into Alolan Ninetales already as well. So he plays a Sycamore. It looks like he has a Decidueye in hand, Ultra Ball, Grass Energy. So he may attach to the Rowlet and retreat into the Vulpix so he can continue getting more Pokemon out. Yep, so this is what he's looking to do. He does beacon indeed. He has no more bench space, so he can't necessarily grab a Tapu Lele unless he's expecting this routes to go down. But it does look like he's just going to get another Alolan Ninetales and another Dartrix, so he can start setting up the board. Tamao's hand looks pretty ideal at its current rate. He's got 2 energy, which is a bit different, but he also has an Octillery. He also has an N. So in this case here, he could consider attaching the energy and then using Octillery's ability. Because he has an N, he's safe to do so. Like if he had a Sycamore, it tends to be better to actually play the Sycamore instead, because it's very possible you can draw into pieces that you don't want to see again, and then having to Sycamore them away. With an N, sometimes it's an okay option to actually Octillery first, because you're just drawing more cards, and you won't necessarily have the options or possibilities to actually decrease your hand size. In Tamao's case, he's actually fine. He drew 2 Ultra Balls, a Rare Candy, and a Curlier. So he can bring his hand down to actually just 1, because he has the Rare Candy for Gardevoir that he's just Ultra Balled for. So I would assume he'd Rare Candy the active, evolve the bench routes to a Curlier, and then Octillery for 4 cards, hoping to hit that Fairy Energy so he can take the first KO. So he does have Sycamore in hand as well. There, he does also hit 2 Fairy Energy. Ooh, he's accidentally drawn an extra card. 1 second. So yes, it does look like Tamao did actually draw an extra card. Doesn't look like the judges seem to have noticed either. Auxiliary for 5. It's actually up to 5 cards in your hand. But he does draw essentially just an extra energy. So he actually had 3 Fairy Energy in his hand. Does take the first KO on that Vulpix. So now, unfortunately for Connor, he's unable to evolve that extra Vulpix there. But he did get End, of course. As you see, Connor here, he's got his Decidueye. He does have space for the Tapu Lele now, so he can start playing down cards. Knowing that all Tamao needs from here onwards is another Gardevoir and starting to get some energy. Really start to put a lot of pressure on Connor's side of the board. So Connor does N, hoping Tamao, well, ending Tamao back down to 5 cards, as it were. And Connor does draw the Tapu Koko and the DCE, so he can start using a load of Ninetales to start spreading damage. Which is probably the most ideal play. He also hasn't used his Feather Arrow ability yet, but it's likely to go on to the active. So he can just use, I believe it's Ice Blade, onto the active Gardevoir, putting onto 70 HP. And that would put it in range of a Espeon EX Miraculous Shine. So yeah, he does go ahead with that. Tamao draws the Sylveon, which he doesn't need anymore. Sylveon's generally used in these decks now as a partner to Gardevoir to set up, being able to Magical Rip him for any 3 cards from your deck, and turn 1 evolve as well using Eevee's ability. It's just another way of setting up Gardevoir, as we've seen with Vulpix used before. We've also seen other options, and it does look like Tamao's just Secret Spring to the active and then attached from his hand from his Sycamore. So now that Gardevoir actually has 5 energy on it, so it's doing a base 150, and because the Ninetales actually had a DC on it, it was doing 210. So now, yep, Connor actually has got the DC again. He's benched his Tapu Koko. He's gone for the Tapu Lele play, so he's actually going for the 1-hit KO. As Gardevoir only has 160 HP left, with the Choice Band, actually takes a knockout. And here Tamao, he does have Auxiliary to always draw. He draws up to 5, attaches a Fairy Energy and Secret Springs to the active Gardevoir. So Tamao's worry here now is that he will need to start trying to get a third Gardevoir into play. He does Auxiliary for the ult and gets an Ultra Ball and has a Tapu Lele in hand. So he is drawing very well to hopefully be able to reset up a second attacker, because this Gardevoir is very unlikely to go down again. And it will put Tamao down just to 1 prize. And with Auxiliary on his bench, it's very unlikely that Connor can end him, because Auxiliary can just draw back up to 5, because there's no sort of ability lock here, which puts Connor really, really unfortunate spot right now. Connor will likely have to hit both Decidueyes this turn, or next turn, once his Tapu Lele goes down. Feather Arrow 3 times to the active, as that is a Curlier underneath that Gardevoir there, and also hit the Espeon EX to devolve for a chance to actually do it here. He's gone for the Tapu Lele play, which again isn't too bad. So he's got 4 energy on the Gardevoir, so that's 80 damage, plus the Tapu Lele is doing another 40, so it's doing 120. 140 with the Feather Arrow from the Decidueye, so it puts Gardevoir on 140, 160 damage, which really isn't enough, as it were. So I'm trying to think. So he does double Feather Arrow, puts up the Decidueye in hope that it can't get knocked out, of course. Tamao has Fairy Energy and has the Guzma, so he's able to Guzma any of Connor's Pokemon on the board, such as the Vulpix, and take an easy KO. So that's game 1. Very quick. Tamao's deck doing what it does very well. Connor's board wasn't actually too bad. He was actually able to set up quite a few things, but it just looks like the inherent power of Gardevoir and sort of the speed that Tamao was able to set up was just a lot more prevalent in actually taking a lot more KOs than allowing Connor to set up a number of things on his board. So Connor does need numerous things on his board to be able to actually take this game down. Whereas Tamao, once he's set up 1 or 2 Gardevoirs, and if he's able to get out artillery, it shows how important that draw power is in this sort of meta in game at the moment. So Connor will go first again. There's really no reason to go second, especially as it would allow Tamao to potentially evolve into his Pokemon earlier if he went first. But Connor wants that opportunity to set up before Tamao does. Looking at Tamao's hand, he does get to draw an extra Mulligan. He does have an Ultra Ball. That looks like a Curlier, so it looks like he may be able to get a turn 1 Bridget off. I'm not too sure if he's starting the Eevee. An Eevee, sorry, so that he has Sylveon. It's more likely he's starting a... They're just having a quick discussion, just checking. Is Tamao drawing an extra card? We'll just wait for the discussion. 6, 7, he does have 8 cards, so... well, the good thing is this is actually easily rectified. Good job on the judges actually picking up on this one. Essentially, because it is an extra Mulligan card that Tamao will be drawing, there's not too much effect on the actual state of the game. But yeah. Yeah. No, it's getting late in the day, so I guess a lot of these players are actually getting a bit tired with a couple of these things. And it's just natural gameplay sort of state kind of happens. Right, so Connor does actually start the Alolan Vulpix again, and he does, Tamao, there you go, does draw the routes off his modern Mulligan. Connor goes for the turn 1 N. Again, he hasn't been able to hit an Ultra Ball or Lele or Brichette that he does play in this deck to start really getting those Rowlets down. So game 1, he was able to get 3 Rowlet down turn 1 just for a Sycamore. Be interested to see if he's able to get maybe 1 or 2 down. He'd be hoping to get 2 at the very least. He doesn't draw into any. So he does just have a Alolan Vulpix, but just in case, if there is some way that he can get knocked out, he does Tapu Lele for the Brigitte, and just literally puts the Brigitte into his hand. I think the rest of the cards he did draw was 1 Decidueye, 1 Dartrix, an N. Obviously he can't beacon, so he does pass his turn. Tamao does drop another route, attaches Fairy Energy, and he does have a Brigitte in hand. Whether that's too useful, he does have 2 Tapu Leles as well, so he has quite a few options. So Tamao's considering maybe just Brigetting for more Pokemon, because he does, at that current moment in time, doesn't actually need to do too much more. But if Connor does N again, he does know that the situation could be worse, and he knows Connor does have that Brigitte, so if he's able to end Connor to a poor hand once again, that's, I guess, is Tamao's reasoning in terms of actually trying to end here, because although he doesn't need any more, it's just trying to be as disruptive as possible. Knowing Connor has that Brigitte, knowing he starts setting up and then beacon next turn, can be quite problematic for Tamao. So Tamao draws into 6 cards. That's an Acerola, Rare Candy, Sycamore, DC, 2 Fairy, I believe. Whereas Connor yet again just drew into Ns and Acerolas himself with 2 Decidueyes. So Connor again having to go for another N. An unfortunately bad start, or sort of slower start than Connor would have hoped for. He does have Beacon for his current turn as well, so again he's hoping to hit 1 or 2 Rowlet, and really just start setting up his board. Here goes. So both players cut each other's respectively decks. Tamao hits the Gardevoir, Rescue Stretcher. So Connor, unfortunately, again has not drawn any Rowlet, so he has just gone for the evolve onto Alolan Ninetales and detach DCE. Tamao's hand here doesn't look too playable either. It does have the Fairy Energy to attach. Just seeing what cards he can put down so that he can Abyssal Hand for 2 cards, potentially. So he plays the Vulpix. He does attach... Not Vulpix, sorry. The Eevee. And it does use Energy Evolution. Sort of another way of thinning the deck. And also potentially Magical Ribboning this turn. However, he does miss... Or he has prized the Sylveon. I think he sort of knew that already, but he just had to play down some cards all at the same time. Or maybe he didn't know that, because maybe the attachment to the routes would have been better. He does only Abyssal Hand for 1. So Tamao's hand's not looking too good right now. So he does just Acerola the routes that had 50 damage on. And Connor's position, he knows he does top deck the Rowlet. Can he do much else? He doesn't want to end, because he doesn't want to give Tamao that opportunity to do much else. So Tamao is again able to burn down to 5 cards. So sorry, 3 cards, so that he can Abyssal Hand for 2, but he only gets a DC and a Field Blur. He does have Gardevoir in hand, and with that DC, he has quite a few options here. So Connor does top deck the Max Potion and just puts 50 onto the Curlier again, knowing that it's going to be evolving. And does look like Tamao here. He does have a Parallel City, which you can play down as well. I think he's just limiting Connor's bench. Attaches DC to the Gardevoir, so now he's got 3 energy on it. Does get an Ultra Ball, but he's no bench space for a Tapu Lele. Does have enough Fairy Energy, so he can Secret Spring. Connor's got to be thinking here that he might just have to play that N pretty soon, just to start setting up his own board. So Tamao does Secret Spring to the Octillery and passes yet again. Connor does Ultra Ball, 1 Decidueye and a Max Potion. So he could go for the Tapu Lele, Sycamore. He will have to dump, or discard I should say, 2 Decidueyes in this turn if he does go for that play. He does go for the Dartrix. So he really doesn't want to risk discarding that Decidueye. It's possible he had a quick deck check as well, whether a Stretcher or if he plays Super Rod is prized. And he does put that Gardevoir onto 100 damage. So Tamao does top deck the Sycamore here now. Tamao plays the Ultra Ball, looking maybe for a Curlier. I don't think he had a rare candy in hand. So he can start off. Or he's looking for that Turtonator to really thin out that deck. Turtonator was that Tamao's tech for sort of the Golisopod that he sort of expected that he'd see in the matchups. He's also not the worst attacker in Metagross as well, hitting for weakness and sort of allowing Metagross to take 80 damage. So Tamao does hit the Fairy Energy, so he can retreat the Octillery if he does Secret Spring to the active. Does have the Choice Band as well, so that would put him the Gardevoir on 4 energies, but it's not enough. He needed to hit 1 more energy, so he's probably thinking if he could play down his hand just next turn, but he is happy to wait and just set up his board for now. So he does just pass 1 more time. Connor does top deck the Rowlet, and this time he doesn't go for the N, which is... Oh, no, he didn't Ice Blade, he just Feather Arrowed for the knockout. And he actually hasn't played the N again. So yeah, in that position, I probably would have played the N, because you're still going to need more than what he's currently got in his hand, which is like a Max Potion and the N, and whatever he drew just off his prizes just then. So Tamao does Guzma the Rowlet, able to preserve that energy on the Octillery, which is not necessary, but preserves the sort of energy attachment, as it were, and Infinite Force for the KO. So now they're back even at prizes. Choice Band onto the Alone Ninetales. So it does Feather Arrow onto the routes and takes the KO by dealing 50 damage to the Gardevoir. So Tamao's situation here, he does need to get another Gardevoir active and ready. That one Alone and Ninetales has carried Connor so far, and it's proving well. And he's also got that Decidueye on the bench, which is allowing him to just do that snipe 20 damage every so often. So Tamao attaches choice band to the active routes. Does he have a rare candy in hand? He did top deck that Gardevoir, unfortunately, so he's had to discard it from this turn. And he's just looked like he's drawn a handful of energy, but he does hit another rare candy and another Gardevoir. There's the DC attachment, there's the Secret Spring, and that will be a knockout because that is essentially 5 energy on that Gardevoir. 2 on the Ninetales, dealing 7 times it by 30, 210 damage. So Tamao in just one Sycamore has been able to turn this game completely around. And now he's the one with the board state. And Connor here currently is just having to... He's finally playing that N, 3 cards. Doesn't hurt Tamao as much because of that auxiliary yet again. Yeah, Connor, I'm not too sure what Connors will have to try and do here. He's gonna have to hit a pretty ideal 3 cards. He will have to Espeon EX that, potentially that card. His field blow, the parallel and the choice band, and he's just had to pass. Unfortunately, it looks like a DC and a Tapu Koko. I was gonna mention he probably does need that Tapu Koko for that one spread. Thankfully, that Decidueye is actually gonna be able to tank a hit. Tamao does have a Guzma in hand as well, so he can start applying more pressure. So he does now have 5 energy himself on that Gardevoir, dealing 150. Tamao's looking like he's maybe prioritizing setting up his board over necessarily taking prizes, which generally is the less greedy thing to do, of course, which has boded well for him throughout this tournament so far. So he does have that auxiliary. Still to draw back up to 5 cards. So he does Abyssal Hand. Gets a couple of energies. He has Secret Spring, or he has attached once already. So he still has one more attachment through Secret Spring, depending on how he has actually attached already. Tamao's just played the Bridget just to get it out of his deck, leaving hopefully only useful cards left. And attaches to the routes and attacks the Decidueye for 150 damage. So Connor, I'm not too sure what he's top decked there. He has top decked the Acerola. So yeah, the current play here would be Acerola active, attach DC to Tapu Koko. Evolve one of the... did he evolve from a Curly? If he evolved from a Curly, I understand the situation and play. It looks like Connor's not looking to go for the Espeon EX play currently though. That's why he didn't attach DC to that Tapu Koko. Probably just looking to actually do enough damage using Feather Arrow onto the Gardevoir. Just so he can then DC and knock it out. Unfortunately, that leaves... That is quite problematic for him because Tamao does have that routes on the bench. Tamao could also have the option of Twilighting because he hasn't used his GX yet to get those Gardevoirs back into his deck. Knowing full well he has Auxiliary to keep drawing back into things anyway. And he also has a second attacker in Sylveon, which is pretty useful. So Tamao does just take the KO on the Tapu Koko. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like Connor's really drawing too much, unfortunately. So Tamao does have the Guzma, actually just takes game 2. Unfortunately, Connor just didn't draw as well as Tamao. Yeah, and Tamao's just been able to sort of play this out really well, get those energies, keep them on board, keep multiple attackers going. Having that prioritizing that auxiliary seemed to be really important, just so that those ends, when he's taking those large one-hit KOs, doesn't affect him too much. But yeah, congratulations to Tamao, and he progresses to the final, who he will face Florian Scher. Don't know if I said that right, but in the final, it will be a Gardevoir versus Gardevoir final. Just having a look at Connor currently furiously saying that he probably dead drew. Doesn't matter. Anyway, well played to both of them. Congratulations, Connor, for top 4. Yeah, and we'll see you back shortly for the final. Thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Please let me know if you have any feedback. Apologies, these are coming out quite slowly as well, but I'm getting these done and uploaded as soon as possible so I can move on to the Norwich League Cup, which I attended as well. So yeah, look forward to that. Thank you.